monitor this talk. I also specialize in cross-border investments and cross-border companies, setting up companies in India as well as in the US. There's lots going on between Asia Pacific and the United States. You should also know that I'm working with Berkeley, most recently started a month ago, to set up a corridor between Berkeley and Bangalore. For some of you who don't know, Bangalore is a city in India, which is the Silicon Valley of India, where I come from. And so we're trying to create a corridor between Berkeley and Bangalore. So companies in the Bay Area and Berkeley can gain access to Indian markets, and companies in that part of the world can understand how to gain access to the markets in your part of the world. Right? Bangalore is a fast-growing area. The only thing it lacks compared to the Bay Area is a VC ecosystem. So we're trying to understand how the VC ecosystem evolved in the Bay Area and try to replicate that in India. So that's the format. 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and then we open it up for questions. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay, great. As you can see, right, Bugworks, just so that you all know, how many of you know that antibiotics is a crisis in the world? Okay, good. At least some of you know, right? You heard the word superbugs? Okay. Basically, the top 3 problems in the globe today are terrorism, environment, and superbugs. So superbugs comes number 3 only to terrorism and the environment in terms of how it can take out lives. Today we are losing about 300 to 350,000 lives per year because of superbugs. Basically, these are bacterial infections that you cannot treat because none of the antibiotics can cure them. Basically, a superbug is a bug that cannot be treated. Either the patient dies or the patient's staying for 10, 20, 30 days and automatically their own immune system is able to make them better. So we are one of 10 companies in the world who have cracked the superbug problem, and we hope we can have a new antibiotic in the market in a few years, and we're going to ensure that emerging countries that cannot afford medicine will get these antibiotics free of charge. So accessibility, affordability, innovation coming together to solve the top 3 global problems. That's what Bugworks does. I'm very fortunate in my 50s to do a startup that can have such a large global impact. And my main message for today's talk is not about making money, being an entrepreneur, but is to choose entrepreneurship to do something that can leave a lasting impact. Do something that solves some large problem and saves lives or saves the environment, which in turn will save lives. And do something as large as that, so it's so purposeful. That's the entrepreneurship journey I want to talk about. Money will automatically follow. The power that comes with it, the adrenaline that comes with it, everything will automatically follow as long as the overarching goal of entrepreneurship is to change something. It can be redeeming a social condition, an environmental condition, a health condition. It needs to be an overarching goal. Else entrepreneurship is an absolute waste of time. Okay. My journeys, my background is a master's and PhD in electrical biomedical engineering. I did it in Washington, in George Washington University. And this allows me the opportunity to look at engineering, medicine, and science all combined together. And as you guys go through college and graduate and come out, you'll find later in life, you're never going to be a specialist in any one area. In your generation, when you come out to work, it's going to be a mixture of many things coming together. Data analytics, history, biology. There's going to be a combination of so many subjects coming together to make your life very interesting. So it's very hard to become slotted in one area. I worked for 15 years, primarily in the United States, doing chips. I worked doing chip design, that's called semiconductors, for many companies, including Apple, when Apple first worked on their iPod. Right? That's what I worked on. And the very first chip I did was this first set-top box that connected to the satellite. This is back in the, I'm draconian, early 90s. So very interesting to work on set-top box, to the iPod, to Nokia. Some of you know about Nokia? Oh, you do, okay. And then moved to India in 2000 when things were starting to happen in India, and I took a plunge and said, we'll leave Silicon Valley and move to India and see if we can take the learnings from the United States to India and vice versa. I did 2 startups in the early 2000s, one was Spin Circuit and one was Magma. Both of these were advanced chip design companies. We basically use mathematical algorithms to simulate silicon so that we can produce fast and very, very power efficient chips. So the semiconductor industry is at the heart of everything you use today. From your phones to your laptops to anything electronics, there's a piece of silicon that is sitting inside there. And this was a hot area up to 2004, 2005. In fact, Bay Area used to be called Silicon Valley in your parents' generation. And then, of course, it became social media and software and digital commerce, etc., etc. But till the early 2000s, it was called Silicon Valley because that Bay Area, South Bay Area, is where most of the silicon companies came from. Intel was one of the largest, one of the largest companies. Now Apple has become everything, including making their own chips that go into their iPhones. Right. So, very interesting area that I worked on. Both of these companies got acquired. One went to the NASDAQ, which is Magma. Spin Circle is a private company that got acquired. And suddenly in 2008, because of some personal challenges I had with health, I decided to do a startup to solve health problems. See, it's interesting, right? The entrepreneurship journey, again, I said, is not driven by money or driven by social status. It's driven by inner calling of wanting to do something that can be of value to society. And I was making good money, life was good, I could have continued on as a semiconductor guy, but I said healthcare is the area where I could make a big impact. And we completely switched over about 10 years ago from from semiconductor to biotechnology. The beauty, ladies and gentlemen, is the same simulation techniques that we use to simulate a piece of silicon, transient silicon, we could use to simulate the human body. We found out that there's a lot of commonality between semiconductor engineering and how you can do simulation of the human body to look at cancer pathways. Incredible, right? From transistors and semiconductors, you can actually look at cancer pathways. So we wanted to create a company that would become the largest company that simulates human cancer, so oncologists can understand their patient's cancer much better than just looking at a biopsy. The whole idea was, can I actually simulate a cancer? Can I create a virtual tumor that the oncologist, she or he, could simulate and customize the treatment for that patient so they get the best treatment possible for the patient? Today that's called personalized medicine. Some of you would have heard the word. Directed medicine or personalized medicine. Because a single bullet doesn't fit every target. So we wanted to customize cancer treatment depending on the patient by simulating the patient's tumor. Now that was the genesis behind wanting to do something in biotech. Sorry. And I founded a cancer therapeutics company called Cellworks. And then from Cellworks, I spun out Bugworks. So Cellworks is still running. It's a Bay Area funded company, but all of the R&D happens in India. And then from cancer, I moved to infection. The reason that happened is as follows. The country where I come from, we have more than 2 million people every year who get infected by tuberculosis. 2 million new cases every year. We have 1.35 billion people, 2 million new cases every year. And a problem that happens in India can impact Minnesota, can impact Berkeley, can impact Paris. Today's world is a completely connected world and mobile world. So an infectious diseases problem that happens in Peru can show up in Bangalore. An infectious diseases problem that happens in Mumbai, in India, can show up in San Francisco. So infection started spreading everywhere. And very few companies work in the infection space. You know why? Because it's not money making like cancer or diabetes. Typically you take an antibiotics for 5 days, 6 days, right? Whereas a cancer patient or a diabetes patient is pretty much you have them for life. And particularly in the United States, where it's ridiculous how expensive it is to treat people, the money spent for infection was very low. So we thought, why not create a company that can come out with new antibiotics for superbugs? I'm thankful that we thought about this in 2012, 7 years ago, and formed the company in 2014, because today you just have to do a Google search, any one of you, on the word superbug, and you'll find the hundreds of thousands of deaths happening everywhere. The United States loses 30,000 people per year owing to superbugs, lack of antibiotics. And it's a $40 billion healthcare cost in your system, because patients are staying extra days in the ICU, because you can't cure. Or you have to try so many different antibiotics and then somehow get lucky with the combination that you come up with. So fabulous problem to solve, and that's what we're going after, right? Again, it's a very large global issue, like I pointed out. We work both in the United States and Bangalore, India, where I'm currently based out of. I think it's fantastic the way the US-India, US-China relationships are going. When you guys graduate, you will never work for a company that's only in a particular country or region. You have to think international. You have to think two things. You have to think orthogonal skill sets, because your skill sets have to be business, little bit of technology, little bit of understanding political science. It needs that kind of broad mentality, and you need to appreciate what is going on in other parts of the world. You know, there was a time when I was in the US where we didn't bother to think about anything outside the United States. But today you can do it because it's such a connected world. So it's important to appreciate pockets of excellence happening all over the world. So when you come out and become entrepreneurs, you can get the best talent in US, Europe, India, wherever it goes. Capital markets today are defining global talents. And you need access and appreciation of global talents, right? And it's very important. And my latest company, while I do Bugworks, is a very interesting company called Cepio that we just formed 3 months ago. And it's a very, very tough space that we're looking at. I don't know whether most of you know that the farmers all over the world, including the United States, use pesticides, particularly in Latin America, India, China, Southeast Asia, pesticides. And they get a very high cancer rates because of the pesticides they use, because they're breathing those pesticides and it goes through their skin, it goes through their respiratory orifices, etc., etc. Very high neuromuscular damage, they get Parkinson's in early, and they have all kinds of issues, musculoskeletal issues, cancer, etc. So, working with an MIT scientist and Bangalore scientist, we've cracked that problem of coming out with a cream that the farmer can put over his body and over his clothing that prevents absorption of those pesticides from outside. So we just concluded animal work and we're trying to do human trials. So Cepio will be a type of medication to prevent absorption of harmful cancer-causing agents and neuromuscular damage-causing agents to farmers. So that's just starting off right now, and hopefully when I meet some of you next time in a few years, that would have progressed. Apart from working with startups, I think giving back to society is also not part of the entrepreneurship journey. I pride myself in working on several NGOs. NGOs means non-governmental organizations that are working on donations and working on doing something for society. My family works very closely with HIV. I'm proud to share with you that my father treated the first HIV patient in India in 1990. So the whole family wanted to do something with HIV. So we have multiple doctors in the family, so we're working with HIV. I'm not a doctor, but we care for small children who have been orphaned by HIV, who have lost their parents to HIV. HIV is not so much a problem in the United States today, because this is a very advanced society, but in countries like India, there's still a huge bad taboo associated with HIV, particularly for kids who are orphaned by them. And forget the other thing, I met several companies in Bangalore. The last point I want to say is, very, very happy to work with Berkeley, because Berkeley has recognized that this corridor needs to be built. There are 3 Bs that are very important: Berkeley, Beijing, Bangalore. Right, the 3 Bs, because there's so much of permutations possible of the type of work that can happen. And that your generation does not need to worry about job losses, because you guys are going to become job creators. Move from the mental, yes ma'am.
For the research that you're doing for all these things, is it that universities in India are doing them, or you have third-party companies who are doing this?
Excellent question. A little bit of both. We have very strong universities in India, but they're not research-wise endowed as much as the United States, right? Very hard to find a Berkeley or a Stanford or a UCLA there. But the few pockets of excellence that we have in Bangalore produce amazing talent. So most of this work comes from industry. Very little of it comes from academia. Very different, good question that you asked, because that's a great question. Entrepreneurship in the United States is driven by very strong work happening in academia that comes out and creates companies. Berkeley is a great example. Stanford is an even better example. I know Stanford, Berkeley rivalry is there, but leaving that aside, okay? Leaving that aside. It's academia that comes out, that walks out, right? A professor comes out with a great cure for cancer or Parkinson's disease. She or he goes out, forms a company, Bay Area investors put money, goes there. That hasn't happened in India. So either individuals who sell their homes or sell the fortunes that they have to start companies, because we don't have VCs in there. And that's the big difference between India and India. But the talent pool available there is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And it's very affordable to do innovation. $1 goes a long way. Journey, I love this thing about a journey, right? It says, have faith in your journey. Everything had to happen exactly as it did to get you where you're going next. And all of you are going to great places. I have no doubt about it. So enjoy that fantastic journey that comes with it, and if entrepreneurship is going to be part of embellishing that journey, fantastic. But everything will fall into place and everything will flow beautifully. It's a very philosophical quote. I just thought I should, supplant that in here for you guys. As I said, congratulations, we have all already won a jackpot. The fact that you're born to the families that you did, and you're sitting in Berkeley as undergrad students, you have already won a jackpot. Because most people in the world cannot even imagine getting to where you've gone. I was telling my kids sometimes when when we talk about life, in countries like India, 470 million people go to sleep on an empty stomach. That's 470 million people. Countries like South America, several hundred million, right? So then we look at US, we have done really well for ourselves. So congratulations, you're already well ahead than billions of people all in the world. So it's a very humbling fact, but it's a fact. Entrepreneurship 101. Next few slides, I'm just going to talk about my opinion about how to create what makes a good entrepreneurship and how to put teams together. There are no right and wrong answers, because each one of us is driven by different things. And it's not wrong to want to make money, it's a great thing. It's just that for me, money is not the driver. So there are no right and wrong things. These are just philosophies, and I just want to share with you what I feel about entrepreneurship 101, right? Please try and solve a large unmet need. I'm personally not so excited about the next app to deliver pizza 2 minutes faster. People make money. You can get funded in San Francisco over beer. If you showed, particularly with the Berkeley background, if you showed an app, great. It's just that doesn't drive me, and I think as you guys come out and do great things, you'll realize that if I can solve an unmet need and make money along the process, wow, how nice is that? So that's the theme. And technology is only a means to a larger end goal. Lots of youngsters say, man, I have the latest Python code or R code that I'm using to create this and that. Those are all means to an end. Always start with that end goal of what I want to do. Am I going to help somebody's business process optimization? Am I going to help alleviate some environmental conditions? Start with the larger problem that technology and everything else becomes means to an end. Addressable market has to be large enough. Because just doing something because you have altruism in your heart and you're a nice person is not good enough to get you going. So you need a combination of a large overarching goal coupled with the fact that there's enough dollars in what's called TAM, total addressable market. Right? Good word for you guys to know when you write a business plan. Total addressable market, what problem? By the way, this is your business plan. What problem am I solving? How big is the market? How am I going to solve it? Why am I different from others? These are the 4 important tenets that go into the business plan. Everything else is BS. What problem am I solving it? How big is the market? How am I solving it? What makes me unique? If these 4 questions can be answered in slide 1, your funding chance is much higher. It's not guaranteed, but it's much higher. Right? Differentiation is a must. And differentiation can happen through technology or business models. It was very humbling for me when Uber happened. I never thought a company like Uber could become an $80 billion company. Technology is so simple because GPS is out there and everything else is out there. But they created innovation through a business model. And they have no capital assets on their books if you look at Uber. It's just all of you use Uber, I use Uber, and then there's Lyft that came after Uber that got funded, etc. So your disruption can be a technology disruption or a business disruption. Uber is a fantastic example of business disruption. Apple is a fantastic example of technology-based disruption that changed all of our lives. Right? And I never had an appreciation till my 40s that you can actually create a company. You don't need great technology, provided you disrupt something. One of these 2 axes needs to be disrupted. Technology axis and or the business axis. Right? You guys with me? Is it okay in terms of flow? Okay, good. Multidisciplinary approach, a given. The moment you're thinking about entrepreneurship, start putting in your mind what problem you want to solve, what kind of team you need. Just don't take your frat friends along to create a company. You need people with diverse skill sets, because there's nothing out there that can get funded today that doesn't have, some technology, some business, some social understanding, some environmental understanding. So you need to have this orthogonal thought process. At least use that word in front of the VC that you're thinking orthogonal. They like it. Right? Scalability, orthogonal axis, international. They like all those words. Right? Be open to adaptation and constant learning trajectories. You know, when we started Bugworks, I had no clue about microbiology and biochemistry. So I started taking courses when I was 45 years old to study medicine. Because you're in India, I'm too old, I can't go to medical school. If I was here, I would have gone to medical school. Right? The question is, you have to be constantly studying. Your bachelor's degree and coming out is just one stone among many stones. And in your generation, there's so much happening every day, particularly in the Bay Area, that you can never say, I'm done. The day you rest, you rust. I'm serious. The day you rest, in terms of that learning, you rust. Keep that in mind, right? And be open to that learning trajectories. There has to be a balance of social impact and return on investment. As I said, if you have your own money, rich father, rich mom, whatever, and want to do your own thing and save society, great. But the moment you take a single dollar from somebody else, you owe her or him an ROI. So you need to juxtapose return on investment and impact to society. Otherwise, don't take somebody else's dollars and simply go to an NGO, which is fine. But we're talking about entrepreneurship where you're taking money from others. Therefore, the word social, when you graduate and come out, a quiz question that an entrepreneur, that an investor would have for you is, what is social entrepreneurship? Social entrepreneurship simply means, I'm not doing something just to deliver a pizza. I'm going to do something that's got impact and saves, does one of something, right? It helps food, it helps environment, it helps education, it helps poverty. Something like that, right? Large goals. But I'm also going to make some money. So they want to see this concept of social engineering or social entrepreneurship. It's not a bad thing to make money. But it needs to be put in context of what problem you're solving. Always take care of your investors and your fellow employees before you take care of yourself. Unfortunately, this was not taught to Wall Street. Right? That's why they lay off 10,000 people and give themselves $100 million bonuses. It's absolute decadence. And the US has designed this decadence to the power of N. So it's very important that when you create companies, and this has to come through as part of your DNA. So the VC that you're pitching to realizes that you want to make her or him also rich. Make money for your investors. Give enough shares for your fellow employees. Take care of everyone above yourself. Automatically, your wealth will grow. When you take care of everyone around you, right? Respect you, they give the best for you, they become part of the founding team, everyone feels, I'm going to make this company successful. Then suddenly you can sit back and the magic unfolds. Yeah? Respect and promote the concept of multiple intelligence. Very, very important for an entrepreneur to survive. You're not just a smart girl or guy, you need to understand finance, you need to understand psychology, so you deal with people, you need to understand how to work with VCs, what kind of body language you're going to carry in front of investors, what kind of body language you're going to carry in front of employees. These are all multiple intelligences. IQ has to do only with one thing. There's IQ and then there's EQ. In fact, most successful entrepreneurs have fantastic EQ. They don't need the best IQ. I know I'm IQ challenged, but the people I work with are phenomenally smart, much smarter than me. But I just put the processes to bring the best people together. So IQ and EQ are so damn important to come together. Multiple intelligence for successful entrepreneurship. And the founding team that you put together needs to have 3 very important characteristics. Right? You need somebody, a dreamer, like a Steve Jobs, Trent, like no one else did. You need somebody who dreams of the problem and who doesn't understand realism, who is not pragmatic, but is able to dream of a solution and dream of a problem. And they may be more wrong than right, but they only know how to dream. Number 2, you have an executor who says, don't trouble me with any of your stupid dreams. I have tasks to be done, and I'm going to execute like there's no tomorrow. And then 3 is one guy whose only job is to get this company networked everywhere. Almost 50% of the valuation of your companies that you're going to form have nothing to do with your team, nothing to do with the problem you're going to solve, nothing to do with your market space. It's a bunch of bull. How well is the guy selling the company, the networking skills? that you're going to develop, and you're in the best area in the world to develop such networking skills. So it's so important to develop those networking skills so that your company gets respected right out there. So think about DEN. Then, at least take that as an out from today's talk, right? Wow, I need orthogonal skill sets. I need to think about social entrepreneurship. I need a dreamer. I need an executor. I need somebody who does networks. Right? So these are very interesting concepts that come together. Sounds very simple once it's put on white, black and white. But this comes out of pure experience of having done what I've done. Right? Sorry. We are taking, continue. This is something I learned from my wife, who runs a school and who's sitting there, by the way. Please welcome her to this. I think it's embarrassing. So it's nice to admit that we learn from our spouses as we go through life. It's so important, right? She runs a small school, preschool. But some of the characteristics that they use to run a small school can be used to run $1 billion biotech company. It may sound strange, but it's so important. There's a lovely thing that I learned from her called Loveless. That says you create a company and an environment where there is love. There's understanding. Love means not romantic love. You know what I mean? Love. Understanding. Valued, respect, safe to express. If your employees feel, your co-workers feel that there is love in this company, we love our job. We love the mission we are going after. We want each other to be successful. That's love. If there is understanding, so that you're not screaming at someone and they feel understood, if they feel valued, if they feel respected, and they feel safe to express. By the way, in all the companies I've touched, this is the mantra. Right? And so, I like to think of them as my fellow colleagues, but this is so important, and love Russ, a very simple technique that you can use in your personal lives as well as in your professional lives, and you will see great results out of it. And your company is only as good as the people in it. When people say Apple is a great company, because Steve Jobs put that kind of DNA into the company and the people it is. Google is a great company. It's the people that have created. So think about it. You better keep those people happy and hire the best people and create the best environment. Then you are a best company. You are not the company. It's you and your people who are the company. Get the best out of your team by practicing Loveless. And I really want you to take this seriously, because we've seen this across many, whether it's an NGO work that we do or companies that we advise, mentor, work with. Those that follow Loveless have the best employees, best productivity. They stick on with the founder, and they all want to work to make their stock worth something. Right? Very, very important. And money should not be the primary driver behind the entrepreneurial spirit. It becomes very nasty. As many of you know what's going on even in Silicon Valley. All that glitters is not gold. The stories of people trying to make money overnight, and then what happens to their lives is known for centuries, and it continues. So this should not be the primary driver. Pursuit of excellence in everything you do. Do not do entrepreneurship unless you are asking yourself this question every day. Whatever I do, is there excellence? Good enough and excellence are two different things. Pursuit of excellence has to become part of everything you do. Forget the results. Excellence doesn't mean you're always going to get the best result. Excellence simply says that whatever is the best I could have done in that particular entrepreneur role, I've done. And when you decouple results from that excellence frame of mind, it becomes fantastic. There's no stress. It's when we couple what is my output or outcome from my effort, that's when there is an issue. So if we can decouple and look at it dispassionately, pursuit of excellence. Whatever you do, it has to be excellent. Alright? Ethics is non-compromisable. Forget anything, right? This should have been my first bullet, I'm sorry. But it's the most important thing. Deal with people and processes that are so ethical, and that has to become the DNA of yourself and your company. You all know what happened to companies like Theranos that are valued at 40 billion and raised 4 billion and 40 billion. Fell off because they cooked up results. And there are tons of stories out there. If you just look at the excesses of Silicon Valley, do a Google search. The fraudsters in Silicon Valley. All of them raised money, made money overnight, but they're sitting with the DOJ lawsuit or can never show their face outside again because they were unethical. So it's so important that ethics is as important as your technology, and that should become, a common medium by which all of you communicate. Highly ethical. To yourselves, to your investors, to your customers. And the most important question that I ask myself is, what are you practicing today? Whatever that may be. It's a very important point. What are you practicing today? I want to become the best in learning Python. Or I want to do something to help with, children's education. Whatever the cause may be. An important introspection that one needs to keep asking themselves to become a good entrepreneur. What am I practicing? What am I doing better today than yesterday, compared to yesterday? And then tomorrow I'm going to ask, what am I practicing to do something fantastic tomorrow better than I did today? That's the constant pursuit of excellence. And then imagine how your employees would think of you. Imagine how your investors would think of you. The body language that you exude in front of your investors when they know that this chap or this girl seems to want to pursue excellence like there's no tomorrow. That translates into valuation of company. Think about it. Initially when you put a business plan, everybody knows those spreadsheets are complete BS. But they're putting money completely based only on one thing, on the team. Right? The first investment, your angel investment in any of your entrepreneurships will be based on the team. 4 or 5 of you are together with great energy, with great enthusiasm, right? They're looking at body language. They're looking at whether this looks like an ethical group of people. People can read that. Are they going to be in pursuit of excellence? Are they going to make me money before they make themselves money? All the things we spoke about. So people look at all of these things. At your first funding, nobody knows what your technology is. Nobody knew what Uber was before Uber got there. It's the first coming together of people and that creation of perceived value. The creation of perceived value that you transmute to the VC through your body language is embodied in the last 2-3 slides. It's very, very important and it's key. And ask yourself every day, what am I practicing today that makes me better in something today compared to yesterday? And I'm always asked about leadership, right? And I just have 2 more slides because I would like to open it up to questions. Right? To me, just what a simple thing. The challenge of leadership is to be strong but not rude. Sounds so simple. You're thinking, what is this guy talking about? It's all basic stuff I know. But keep, something like these simple tenets are enough to create good companies. Right? Be strong but not rude. Be kind but not weak. Sounds so obvious when it's put in black and white, but these things are so important when you want to become your CEO of your company. Be humble but not timid. Small, subtle variations, right? You can be humble, but still you're not timid. So no VC can walk over you, a competitor can't walk over you, but you're humble in what you do. Be proud, but not arrogant. Small, subtle, important variances. And these are, again, great things that you can carry through life, not only for your entrepreneurship journey, but also for personal success in your personal life. Have humor, but never laugh at others. Right? So important, right? And these are good attitudes to carry with you as you become an entrepreneur, move forward. I have only a couple of slides, but you know what I'm going to hold back? I'm just going to tell you one last slide, that I work in an exciting area called biotechnology, right? Look at the impact biotechnology has on environment, on medical devices, on fuels, on biologicals, on food, agriculture, pharmaceutical. All of this area together is biotechnology area. And we bring many skills to the table to solve problems there. We work on biology, engineering, mathematics. So if you look at my teams, they're completely orthogonal. I have a biochemist, I can have an English major, I can have an electrical engineer, computer scientist. It's fantastic to bring all of these different people together. Because as chaotic as it sounds, it's in that chaos that non-linear thinking happens. Chaos is good. Chaos is absolutely good during the early days of entrepreneurship. And that chaotic energy brings about amazing thought processes that you can't do if you follow things which are very, very regular. Process comes later. Initially, it's creative juices, which by definition are chaotic. So think about orthogonal skill sets, chaos, thinks about value, and I rest my case. Thank you for your time. Open to questions, comments, except from my daughter. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
So for Bugworks, like if you have like a biotech idea, you have to like do a lot of like literature research and stuff. Like, did you just have that from reading a bunch of papers, or did you like do it yourself in labs, or how did you come up with your idea?
I did 3 things. One is a lot of reading myself, right? Because I thankfully come from the engineering background that gave me enough strength to want to go and read something on microbiology. I knew nothing about it. Right? So just started reading. I started speaking to top physicians around India and other countries to say, what is the big problem do you have in the clinic? Is it cardiology? Is it oncology? Or is it an infection that you can't cure? Then they told me, look, for cancer we have lots of drugs. For cardiovascular we have a lot of drugs. For antibiotics we have none. I said, oh, really? When was the last antibiotic found? 1962, before even I was born. Before you guys were even a faint idea in your parents' mind. It's like, holy cow, I think that's a great opportunity. Nobody's tapped that into it, nobody's looking at it. Can we get there? So it's this constant internal thought process of, are there any problems left to be solved in the world? Or should I start another pizza app company? And nothing wrong with starting a pizza app company. But it's an introspection that you do and see, are there open areas that need to be solved? So I spoke to physicians and I went and spoke to some top scientists in the United States and in India before we put this together. And I was very fortunate to meet a very smart set of people. US educated, came back to India, who are biochemists and microbiologists. And one thing leads to the other. There's a concept called alchemy. You guys are all kids. You'll understand and appreciate the concept called alchemy. When you go out and you want to do something that's really good for the world, forces will align themselves to make it happen. Take that from me. It's not to swindle someone. I'm talking about to do something really good that can be game-changing in anything. Forces do align to make things happen. It sounds philosophical, but it's so true. So do Google search a word called alchemy. It's a fantastic concept. So alchemy also helped us.
So did they already have the idea and you kind of just brought everyone together, or did they come up with a new idea like?
Fantastic. This idea came about because I got together a mathematician, electrical engineer, computer scientist, microbiologist, and a pharmacologist together. And over months we were debating on a whiteboard, how can we solve the bacteria problem? Superbug is killing so many people. Big pharmaceutical companies have tried and failed. We are small guys. What can we do that is so non-linear and crazy and out of the box that the big boys didn't do? And because it's like the blind men looking at the elephant, I don't know whether you read the story as kids. Each one sees a different thing of what they touch. So you got different ideas and they all put it together. We figured out how we can simulate drug resistance. And so this is how we developed the idea.
Sorry, one more question. How did you convince people to quit their job, or I don't know if they quit, but start on this huge thing without having an idea to begin with?
Beautiful question. I don't know how I did it. I must have done a damn good job. I used to sell on a PowerPoint saying we're going to solve the Superbug problem. But they did. The character of the management team, the body language of the management team, the backgrounds we come from, everybody looks for ethical people. That's why I keep telling you again and again. Your smartness is only one portion, multiple intelligences, and ethics is so important. When they know the group of people who are coming together truly mean that they want to work and solve a mission, many of them quit their job at GSK and AstraZeneca and Roche to come and work for us at 1/4 the salaries. Right? It does happen. Of course, everyone owns shares in the company. Although I'm the founder of the company, I don't have the majority ownership. This is the other thing I learned through my entrepreneurship journey, that you don't need to hold on to your equity. Once they realize that everyone is a co-founder, and if this company does well, they're all going to make money, that's when they took the final step of quitting the company. So share your equity. Very, very important to do so. Did that answer your question? Great. Yes.
So,
yes, sir.
yeah. So if you share your equity, then there's no one single control over the company, right? And so you can't make a lot of decisions by yourself, difficult decisions and stuff. So it just reduces the flexibility.
Yes and no. What happens is not everybody is going to have exactly the same, obviously, right? The co-founders will still hold the magic number in India is about 50% co-founders, and then the remaining 50 goes up for VCs and your other employees through the employee stock option pool. It's called ESOP. It's very important that when you put your business plan for entrepreneurship, you think about ESOP, the employee stock option pool. So they have enough shares to make it worth for them to quit their job in Google and come and work for you. Correct? Yet, as co-founders, you hold at least 49, 50%, 51%, so that you have, those rights. Most of the problem with rights doesn't come with your fellow employees. It comes between VCs and you. Fellow employees are all in the journey together, unless you get a rogue in there, right? And that's an outlier, an aberration in the model. But in general, it's always a tough VC who wants to kick the founder out and bring somebody else in. That's when the voting problems come in between the two. Very rarely amongst employees. Right? Okay.
You mentioned the total addressable market needs to be large enough, but what's your opinion on a market that's big enough?
Excellent question. I don't know the answer, but my humble opinion is anything above $100 million is worth coming in, because you can think about it. The guy puts in $5 million into your company, they're looking at an exit of around 4x to 5x. So if I put $5 million in your company, I'm looking at a $20 to $25 million exit for me, which means the pie has to be at least $100 million for me to think of an exit that is about 1/4 of its size. So anything above $100 million is worth doing. Of course, anything above $1 billion is certainly worth, but I think $100 million is good enough. Not everybody needs to create an Apple, right? It can be good enough, but impactful. Yes, sir.
You talked about balancing social impact and
Yes.
return on investment.
Yeah.
What is your approach or philosophy and Bugworks' philosophy about pricing drugs?
Beautiful. Excellent question. We haven't thought that far, to be honest. But the thought process, the first order thought process is 50% of the problem of super drugs is happening in emerging countries. India, China, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America. So we told ourselves when we wrote the business plan is, if we are wildly successful and Roche acquires us, or Genentech or somebody acquires us, we will still hold on the rights to those countries. That's the balance I'm talking about, right? Investors make money, you make money, but you say, I'm going to hold the rights to, Zambia, or Thailand, or India, or Sri Lanka, because that's where the problem is that people can't afford, a $400 thing. So you can do that by saying, I hold certain rights to certain areas, in our cases. Each business will have different metrics, but in our case, it's a pricing. And pharmaceutical industry has got a very bad reputation because of the pricing, and they fleece customers. And in my 50s, I don't want to do a company to fleece anyone. I wouldn't have done it even in my 30s, but let alone, definitely not my 50s. So we will hold the rights for these emerging countries. Yeah? Any other questions, comments? Yes?
You mentioned that the world problems. What are some other world problems that you'd like to have a crack at in your life? Besides, for example, the
Bugworks is Cellworks. Yeah, Cellworks. Yeah, we looked at cancer, looked at infection. Now we're looking at these farmers all over the world. This new cream that can prevent absorption of harmful pesticides, herbicides. The next area I'd like to work on, if my wife would allow me to work even through my 60s, would be something to do with the environment. I think we are so messed up as a race, it's not even funny. So I worked, it's not even funny. Your president wouldn't agree, but it's that thing. But that's for over beer discussion. But I think I would do something with the environment, biofuels. For example, finding small, safe bacteria that are friendly bacteria that can go into the environment and eat carbon. But they're safe because they are in our gut. So I'm looking at the gut bacteria, it's called microbiome. I'm studying the gut bacteria because they have evolved with us since humanoids were first formed. Can we use those friendly bacteria that help us and take out carbon and other bad particles from the environment to create an environmental company? It's all that kind of thought process, but that will be my next one. Yes?
Can you talk about how your PhD or your master's contributed to later ventures?
Lovely question. Really good question. I was never into academics. Just went through life and through various circumstances did my PhD, necessity or what have you. I think so I'm not a great researcher at all. But what the PhD taught me is to step back and look at a big picture and say, oh, environment problem. What is the issue? There's carbon, there's greenhouse effects, this. I don't know how to solve it. But I'm at least able to step back and look at a large picture and say, I see a problem there. I want to fix that problem. The ability to look at large picture, bring in engineering, bring in some biology, bring in some understanding of society, etc. That's what the PhD allowed me to do. Look at the big picture. And it gave me the title to go and sit with these scientists who otherwise would never have respected me. In doing a tech company, you don't need a degree at all. In fact, the best tech companies in this country are high school dropouts, you all know that. You don't need a degree. But to work in the areas that I work in, which are so esoteric and science-driven, it's like you have to come to the table. To come to the party, they want to see a degree. That's where it really helps me.
All right, don't ask any questions. If anybody...
Kind of.
Oh, sorry.
I was wondering, what would you say is the biggest thing that made you want to do social things? You mentioned you had health issues.
Yes.
Would you say it's that, your culture, age?
Brilliant. I think it's a health. because I got hit with health, and I'm very happy to share that with you. That is the best thing that happened to me. Right? I had two close shaves with my life, one in 2000, one in 2005. And I had only one of two choices. Either to sit back and say, oh my God, what did happen to me? And I almost died, not once but twice. Or to say, bloody hell, I'm going to use that opportunity to create an inflection and give back to society through science, through technology, through entrepreneurship. And I just happened to choose the latter. So that was the point, and I'm so glad. I really am glad. As cliched as it sounds, the problems that you'll face in life will be the best things that happen to you. Because if everything is fine and you're always leading a 5-star life, why go out and save the earth? Why worry about a dying kid somewhere? Why? Life is great. But then when you hit with some issues, whether it's financial, personal, health, you should utilize those problems to create a point of inflection in your life. And that was my entrepreneurial inflection. Right? As crazy as it sounds, it's true. Yes?
You mentioned how the team is so important to company success. What's the single obstacle or thing that you see prevents teams from finding that success? Is there something?
Fabulous questions. I just love all these questions. Trust. When they think that the management is out to squeeze them, and the guy sitting or girl sitting on top of making money on his or her hard work, it's that trust. So when there's transparency of communication between management and, I don't even call them my employees, they're colleagues. Nobody works for you, by the way. I hate the terminology that so-and-so works for me. That's the most demeaning thing. They're all our colleagues, everybody's there to play a role and move forward. So I always treat them as fellow owners of the company. Everyone, once they feel they're fellow owners of the company, and they know that you are not, taking advantage of them, and so that my equity is growing when she or he is toiling. When the trust relationship is ascertained, man, I'm enjoying myself, I'm holidaying. There are enough people to work because they're my fellow owners. Right? They have to be part of your journey. They're not your employees. It's a very bad connotation. And in the United States, I don't like the connotation either. But when you take them along with you and they're part of your journey, suddenly 1 + 1 becomes 7. Always think 1 + 1 has to be 7 or greater. It can't be 2. Right? So that's the biggest obstacle. Is trust and vision. The guy or the guys on top or the girls on top need to have a fantastic vision, right? That people understand clearly and that's communicated and articulated very clearly. And they should know that everyone is going to make money if this company succeeds.
We have time for one more. Anybody have one?
All right. I'm going to leave you with one last slide that I picked out from Africa. Right? Just forget all this I had. And thank God I didn't go through all of this stuff, right? Sorry, just 1 second. Have you heard of the word Ubuntu? Those of you who use operating systems? Ubuntu. Right? It's a free operating system. I'm sure the Indian guys know it because they work in software. This Ubuntu word comes from Zulu, South African language, and I was just blown away, right? And it said, when I went and looked at Ubuntu, a quality that includes essential human virtues, compassion and humanity. The Africans taught the world that I am because we are. That's a question you asked, right? I am because we are. How fascinating is that? And in your entrepreneurial journeys, if you can put together teams and companies that says, I'm going to be successful because we are successful. And it's a fantastic concept. And thankfully, they use that as a perfect name for an open source software, which is Ubuntu. So have a Ubuntu life. Thank you for your time.
Anyone have the sign-in sheet? Anyone need the sign-in sheet?